Alrighty. Welcome everybody to Beaver and Benjo Ball Talk. We have a special edition today. We're coming at you Friday, September 13th, and we're talking college ball today. Little change of direction from our normal programming. We're talking college ball. We have a new guest here, G. Anthony Thomas. G, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Bao?
We're doing good. We're doing good. We got Ben coming at us live. Ben Joe. We got G coming at us live. We're getting right into it. College football. It's been an electric year so far. Some upsets, some teams that, are living up to expectations, some sleeper teams, but highlighted last night, Arizona State gets the win. Big win for them. They moved to 3-0, and then the other game was just 87-10, absolute blowout. Moves us over to tonight. Friday night college football is always my favorite. Usually there's a Pac-12 game in there, but we have a Pac-12 old Pac-12 team playing. We got Arizona versus Kansas State. Gee, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, so I'm super excited for this one. It's Arizona's first matchup in the Big 12. So I'm super excited to see how they play against, this competition. I know they're in the Pac-12 obviously for all those years. And Noah Fafita and Tatera Toa McMillan are probably my favorite duo in all of college football right now. So I've tuned to them every weekend, and I know that they did struggle a little bit last week versus a FCS opponent, but I think once they get that duo going and with their coach Brennan, I think they're going to get it rocking and show them that they're ready for the Big 12.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Fafita, 5 passing touchdowns this year. 4 of them are to McMillan. So those guys,
Yeah,
bread and
in one
butter,
game. Yeah,
bread and butter for sure. Kansas State, they got a pretty electric quarterback. They
yep.
got a good win last week against Tulane. That game was a little sketchy at first, but I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, Big 12 conference starting. These conference games are huge, so that will be a big one, and
Yeah,
it's at Kansas State. I know a lot of people
yeah.
are liking Arizona on this one, but the other game is Kansas versus UNLV. Kansas is 1-1. They dropped one to Illinois last week. It was an away game, so I understand that, but I think people had high hopes for Kansas this year, so hopefully they can get a win on that one. All right. That is the recap for tonight's games. A lot of eyes on that Arizona Kansas State one. People will be watching. Nothing else is on. Let's go to the weekend. Benjo, what's your favorite matchup this weekend? Which one are you looking forward to?
My matchup of the weekend. Um, I would like to say honestly tonight. Like I know Friday is a little early for the weekend. Some people would call it Saturday, Sunday, but I think this Arizona Kansas State is going to be a great game. Know a lot of my buddies will be at it, so I'm excited for them to go check that game out. But I think Kansas State's rolling in hot after a big win against Tulane. Tulane's a very admirable opponent. Every year they have a pretty good football program. They blew out their first opponent. So I think it should be pretty good. I'm seeing right here the match predictor has them as 73% favorites to win this game. I think that's a little high. I saw that quarterback. He is electric, but he seemed a little reckless at times. He had a pick last game. The same thing with the Arizona quarterback. He's thrown some picks this season already. So look for some turnovers this game. But I'm excited for this game, obviously. But the interstate matchups are always going to be good.
Yeah.
Colorado State. I know a lot of people have that highlighted. That one should be great as always.
Well,
I think Colorado State can honestly
hey,
win it this year.
before we move to the weekend slate, let's stay on this Friday game, your game of the week. What's your pick on this one? Who's winning? Who do you got winning this one?
Um, now seeing that it's at Kansas State, I think Kansas State will sneak it out. I
Gee,
think it's going to be a high scoring game. I'm seeing something like 45-38, 45-34 maybe.
you think your Wildcats get it done tonight?
I do know that Kansas State has a really good quarterback. I mean, he's young, but he showed last year at the end of the season that he has command of that offense, and then also the Colorado transfer, Dylan Edwards. He's already shown that he has his foot forced and that. So I think that Kansas State's really itching for a win, but in Arizona, like I said, they struggled versus NAU. So I actually might be going for Kansas State tonight.
Yeah, I've seen around the social medias, a lot of people are liking Arizona on this one, especially with that 7 point spread. You could buy yourself a half point, get to 7.5 if you think it's going to be a touchdown game. Uh, it's a big game. I know Kansas, but both these are kind of sleeper college football teams. Arizona has good years every once in a while. Kansas State's always pretty good. I would love to see Arizona get a win here, make a statement in their first Big 12 game. But at home, this is a must win for Kansas State. So I think I'll ride with you guys. I think Kansas State might win that one. Uh so moving on to the weekend, uh college game day is going to be at the South Carolina LSU game. I think it might be one of the first SEC matchups. I know South Carolina actually played Kentucky last week and is already 1-0 in the SEC, so South Carolina could beat this LSU team and move to 2-0. But Benjo, you were at the LSU USC game. What are your thoughts on that LSU team? What do you think they're going to go into Columbia, South Carolina and get a win? We lost Benjo. G, what are your what are your thoughts on that one, G?
Honestly, I think LSU they kind of, as far as LSU, I think that they last week when they faced that FCS opponent, they kind of got a recharge, we'll call it, and I think they're going to make this a tough matchup for South Carolina. But South Carolina again, they're kind of on a roll, so I'm going to go with South Carolina.
Yeah, dude, honestly, that'd be huge if South Carolina could win, knock off the rank opponent, move to 2-0 in the SEC. I think South Carolina would propel themselves into the top 25 for sure. And then LSU would drop to 1-2 on the season, which would be crazy to see. So I'm excited for that one. College game days there. It's 9 a.m. kickoff, your guys' time out in California. Let's uh let's move to
Sorry about that, boys. Had a little technical difficulty. Trying to
yeah.
get my computer all charged up. I was at 2%. Got
No
the
worries.
charger, so we're all
No
good.
worries, man. Let's move to the Oregon State game. G,
The Civil War.
I know you're a huge Oregon fan and a huge Pac-12 fan. I mean, obviously, RIP to the Pac-12 looks like might be a revitalization coming on. So, Oregon State, it's my understanding that they are conferenceless. They don't have a conference, so I don't even know
Mhm.
how anything works.
I think they're still affiliated with the Pac-12, are they?
Like,
Yeah,
would that be their logo on their jersey
Yeah, it's
or
on their jerseys. The
okay?
Oregon State, yeah, them and Washington State. They're still in the Pac-12, and so that's why
back two.
they jokingly call it the Pac-2.
Yeah,
And now we have Colorado State, Fresno, San Diego State, and which one am I forgetting?
it's here.
Boise. Boise. At Boise State,
Boise. That's
Colorado
right. Yeah,
State.
I
and I
gotta buy.
think they should add other schools. I think Nevada deserves it. I don't know. I think the ones that represent a state. That's always how it's been in my head. The ones that represent a state kind of belong in the Pac-12.
Hell yeah.
Not that the
Well,
state schools don't, but I always thought that the ones that represent a whole
before we
state.
get into the new Pac-12 talk, we'll continue
Yeah, let's get into that later.
with the weekend. Oregon's been struggling lately. I mean, that first game of
Yeah.
the season wasn't great. I think that Boise State team is super slept on. That Boise State team is amazing.
Yes.
Oregon squeaks out a dub by 3 at home. Uh, yeah, Civil War. What are your thoughts on this one, G? Have you watched Oregon this season? Do you kind of have a good idea of what they look like?
Yeah, I've watched a ton of Oregon this season. Leading up, I was super excited for this season, and watching these two past games, I got to be honest, I'm a little bit worried for Oregon here. But I know that I think they're going to pull the win off tonight. But like you said, I think Oregon's been struggling a little bit. They haven't really found their rhythm yet. So, but the Civil War, it's always going to be a big game no matter what. And the
It's in
difference between
Corvallis too.
right, right.
It's up in Corvallis.
It's always going to be a big game. And the real difference between this Civil War and many others is obviously they're not in the same conference, but this is in the beginning of the season. So this is a whole, as far as health goes, all that plays into it. And so I think that Oregon State is going to give them a good game. I think they're going to be healthier than they were at the very end of the season. But I'm going to go with Oregon.
Yeah, it's a good point you brought up. Typically, from my understanding, this is normally a November, December type of game. It's not usually a
Mm-hmm.
September type of game, middle of the day too. It's gonna be interesting. I think I've seen
Yeah.
this game be a night game a couple times. The
Yep.
spread is 16. Do you think they win by more than 2 touchdowns?
Yeah. I think in the end, but I think that Oregon State they're going to put up a fight at first, because there's
Yeah.
like I said, it's a rivalry game and it's the beginning of the season, and obviously they're at home. So,
This is a
but I
huge
think
opportunity for Oregon to gain some momentum after a rough start. If they can go into
definitely,
Corvallis and dog walk Oregon State, win by 3 touchdowns, walk out of there with the trophy, it could propel them into Big Ten conference play. Benjo,
yeah,
what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, looking at it, both the Pac-2 teams get to have a rematch against one of the teams that's left, and an in-state rival at that. So I think there's no way these teams go 0 for 2. So I think we're going to see an upset here. The Washington State one looks maybe a little more likely because Washington's obviously not the same caliber they were last year and on Oregon's caliber at all. But I think Oregon does get it done. I think it's going to be a good game, but I really like Dan Lanning. I think Dan Lanning is a great coach. I think he's probably like the best coach in college football. Um, I think he'll take care of business. If not, this season might go up to hell for the or not up to hell, go down to hell for Oregon because they're playing a little sketchy right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can talk about that a little bit. The two remaining Pac-12 teams, the Pac-2, Oregon State and Washington State are both playing their respected rivals, Washington and Oregon. That they both kick off at the same time as well. That Washington State game is played at Lumen Field, which is where the Seahawks play.
Ooh,
It's gonna be a huge game, packed out.
neutral location.
Yeah, neutral
yeah,
location for sure, Seattle.
you know that.
So that one is going to be a banger. I mean, Washington's 2-0. Washington State's coming off a stomping of Texas Tech, Big 12 opponent. So Washington State's making a name for themselves. I like I'm gonna disagree with you, Ben. I think both the dominant Oregon and Washington are gonna beat their respective rivals, Oregon State and Washington State. What do you think about that? Do you think they both go 2-0 or
I do, yeah, I do. I think that a lot of people are sleeping on Washington and Coach Fisher. I think that he ran a great program. Everyone expected Noah Fafita and Teratoa McMillan to follow him, but he did bring some pieces with Jonah Coleman. He's a really really exciting running back, number one, and he's also from Stockton, California, so he's a NorCal guy. I've been watching him since high school, and that kid is dominant. He's had multiple touchdowns in both the games they played, and I think that with again the rivalry week early in the
yeah?
season, it's
And
different, and I
they got
think that
S
Washington's going to be on top.
they got SEC quarterback transfer Will Rogers. He's
Hmm.
played big time football before, crowded stadiums.
Sure.
Uh, to round out the 2:30 slate, my time, it'd be your 12:30 slate. Two big games I want to highlight. One of them is Notre Dame Purdue. Notre Dame's coming off a crazy loss. Dude, they were riding so high after their week 1 win. They were ranked fifth in the country, and then they drop one at home to NIU. So they got a huge bounce back game against Purdue. Uh, for those of y'all don't know, that's an in-state rivalry, Indiana rivalry. The game is at Purdue. The spread is Notre Dame -8. Riley Leonard has yet to throw a passing touchdown. Duke transfer. He's got 2 picks, 321 yards through 2 games. Uh, what are your guys' thoughts on that one? Do you think Notre Dame gets a huge bounce back and gets back into like the top 15 after this one, or do you think they tumble?
Well, Purdue's always been that team that's kind of upset all the big teams in the Big Ten. But I do see Notre Dame kind of that probably had a really rough week at practice, and I think they're going to pull this one off. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame here.
What do you think about that one, Ben?
I am a Notre Dame hater. I don't like Notre Dame. I like to talk a lot of hoopla and they don't really back it up. So I think the Boilermakers, just because I want to see the world burn, are going to win. I think being at home too, big deal. I used to that in-state rivalry. There's going to be a lot of fans rowdy, and I didn't know that this transfer hasn't even thrown a touchdown yet. So
I think he has a rushing touchdown. Yeah, Notre Dame was fifth in the country last week after beating A&M week one. So
but
Pretty
there's
mediocre.
another team that's a lot of fugaze.
yeah,
Texas A&M always busts themselves up to be a 17, 18th in the nation, and
well
they'll lose some games.
that moves us to the next 12:30 game, your guys' time that I wanted to talk about. There's the two in-state Pac-2 rivalry games that are on that 12:30 slate, and the last one besides the Notre Dame one is A&M versus Florida. It's in Gainesville. It's in the Swamp. Both teams are 1-1. It's both their first SEC games. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that us three are SEC experts. I don't think we know a whole lot about it, but I know the brand of Florida and I know the brand of A&M, and I know that this is a huge game. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think A&M can go into the Swamp and get a dub, or do you think that Florida home field advantage will take the dub in this one?
I don't know. I think that it's going to be tough for A&M, especially at the Swamp, and after the big win they had last week with freshman quarterback DJ Lagway. So I don't know, and they haven't even announced a starting quarterback. So I don't know. I'm going to go with Florida here. I think it's again going to be a tough game. It's the SEC. It's the first game of the conference, but I'm gonna say it's going to be really hard for Texas A&M to get a win at the Swamp.
Benjo?
Both of them are coming off of tough losses, obviously, or sorry, started off the season with a tough loss, and they're coming back with a bounce back win against some pretty bottom feeder teams like A&M playing McNeese, blew them out. So they both kind of have a similar start to the season. I'd say A&M's, even though it was closer, is more demoralized. Actually, I don't know. Both were pretty bad because Florida lost to an in-state rival. But
Who do you
Well,
think? Who do you think?
Miami's a really good team.
Who do you think wins? Who do you got winning this one?
I think I think Florida's going to win. I'm going Florida.
You think Florida's going to win? All right. For my pick on this one, I'm gonna have to ride with A&M. I think A&M's gonna go into the Swamp and uh absolutely shut down Florida. Florida's offense is completely stagnant. They're not good at all. So I think A&M will go in there, get a dub, be 1-0 in the SEC, and that Notre Dame loss sucks for them now because of how bad Notre Dame lost at home to NIU. But I think A&M is a college football playoff type team. They're a top 16 team, or top 12 team in the country. I think that first loss was a little bit of a fluke. I think A&M wins that one, no problem. Uh, that being said, if the Swamp is, I would never want to try to coach in there. It's an insane atmosphere. Uh, let's move on to. I
We want
mean,
to talk about maybe Pittsburgh, West Virginia.
yeah, I mean that's a big one. It's the Cross Bridge rivalry. West Virginia lost week one, big to Penn State. Pitt's coming in 2-0. They're pretty hot. I think if Pitt wins this game, they'll be ranked for sure.
It's
I'll let,
Cincy.
yeah.
Cincy.
I don't know how much we know about these two teams. I know Garrett Green was he's the West Virginia quarterback. He's a Heisman hopeful. He's a dual threat. So yeah, well, this is one of those games like the Washington State game. This is played at Acrisure Stadium. This is played at NFL Stadium, neutral site. I'll let you guys see what your thoughts are on this one.
I'm gonna go West Virginia. Uh, Played a dynasty with them this year, so I got some affinity towards them, and obviously a big fan of Pat McAfee, so rooting for him. But I don't know. Sometimes when you get a win like Pittsburgh had last week against Cincinnati, you kind of like what happened with Notre Dame, kind of blow your load. You got nothing left. So I could see West Virginia coming in, and it is at a neutral site, like you said, which is a big deal. And if, like you said, Garrett Green's a Heisman hopeful, then I think he's going to take care of business and get a win here, a much needed win.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with West Virginia as well. I think that Garrett Green, I'm a big fan of him as well. I think that he's gonna kind of put a period after that, and Pitt's gonna kind of go back and have some. I think that Pitt's kind of in a rebuild right now. They got a young quarterback, and I don't think they're gonna be pull off this one. No.
Yeah, no, I'm with you guys. I would as a fan, I'd love to see West Virginia get the win on that one. Like, let alone who I think's gonna win. I think they're gonna win, but I'd love to see them get a win on top of it as well. I mean, that kind of rounds up the slate of college football. It's pretty mediocre this week. So I think the next conversation that we could dive into, it would make sense to probably have a conversation about what we
Did
think.
we? Did you guys talk about Utah State? Sorry to interrupt.
I don't know if there's anything to talk about on that game. Is there?
Yeah,
Well,
I
there is
just
Colorado State, and even though the teams aren't very high level, I am excited to
Yeah,
watch
no,
that game.
you're right. That's a big one to talk about. The Utah State game, there's nothing to talk about that one. Ben, you saw it last week. It was 48-0. There's nothing to talk about on that game. But I forgot that Colorado was playing Colorado State. That one definitely needs to be talked about. Gee, where is that game? Is it in Boulder or is it in Fort
I know
Collins?
that they
for
sometimes they also do it at a neutral location. I actually haven't researched where the game is. Last year it was in Boulder, so if it's in anybody's stadium, I assume it's at Colorado State.
Where is
yeah,
it?
it's Canvas Stadium, Fort Collins.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Colorado, but I do. I'm a huge fan of Travis Hunter, and I do think that Colorado is going to pull this one off. But I do think, just like last year, Colorado State is going to make it a battle for sure.
Yeah, Shiloh. Shiloh broke his forearm, I believe,
Yeah.
so he won't be playing in that one. Uh, I think everybody was watching that Colorado Nebraska game last week. That
hmm
game was
Well, I
that game
watched it until probably about the half, and then I
That's what
turned
I'm
it off.
saying. It was hard to watch, dude.
Very.
I mean, just a complete and utter mismatch on both sides of the ball. And the biggest place I noticed it was the trenches. Colorado State's or Colorado's O line had no answer for the D line of Nebraska, and then Nebraska could basically do whatever they wanted in the run game. That was pretty brutal to watch. I would like to see Colorado get a win here just so like Dion doesn't quit mid-season, but I honestly can't put any trust in that team. I think Colorado State is gonna win, and it's just gonna. I think Shador is gonna sit the rest of the season after this one. It's gonna be that bad, dude.
Wow.
That Colorado team is terrible. What do you think about this one, Ben?
I agree. I mean, this team is just a bunch of flash and no substance. I mean, yeah, they got some players like Travis and like Shadir has his moments. They had some guys that are like, oh yeah, this is a good team. But for them to just completely not address the O or D line that's been a problem the last 2 years is insane. And it kind of goes to show that like, yeah, the flashy players who want to make it all about them go to Colorado, but like linemen aren't really like that. You don't see a lot of flashy linemen. I mean, there's Taylor Lewan, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think he can really recruit line that well. I mean, he was a DB.
So who do you think
What does he know
wins?
about him?
You think Boulder gets it done, or do you think Colorado State's gonna take the win on this one?
Colorado State's gonna win. I think both teams went opposite. I think Colorado's gotten worse, and I think Colorado State's got better. So, and that game was close last year, and they're pretty demoralized out there in Buffalo. So, Colorado State, I think, is gonna get done.
Yeah. Well, that leads us to one last game I'd like to talk about that I forgot about. It's the ESPN game.
Oh,
It's on the number one. It's the ESPN. Starts at 7:30 your guys' time, 9:30 my time, 10:30 East Coast, a little bit of a late kickoff. UC Berkeley, the California Golden Bears are taking on the San Diego State Aztecs. The spread is 17 and a half. Berkeley's home, coming off a huge win against Auburn. Huge win. I think if Cal wins this game convincingly, they might be ranked. What are y'all's thoughts on this? We'll start with G Anthony Thomas. G, what do you think about this one?
be right back.
I think Cal's going to win, but I do think that I think that Cal still has some things that they need to work on. They are missing two starters on offense, and their line did not play very well versus Auburn. I don't think that was the best Auburn team that they've ever played. And I think that Auburn's probably going to be at the bottom barrel of the SEC. So I don't think that that was a really huge test for Cal. So I personally don't think they should be ranked if they beat SDSU. But I do think it's good that they're on a win streak and stuff. I know that they have a really powerful offense. Fernando Mendoza, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks coming in, and he's got a great connection with all of his receivers. And of course, Jaden Knott. I'm not sure if he's going to be healthy this week, but yeah, he's a very exciting player in college football. So I think Cal's going to pull this one off.
Yeah. Well, this is a huge game for Cal in the sense that they go immediately into ACC play after this one, and their first game is at Florida State. And then
Mm-hmm.
after that game, they go play Miami, and they play Pitt after that. So, yeah, this is a massive game for them. If they lose this one, they go from being 2-0 to maybe not even making a bowl game because of how difficult their ACC schedule is. But I mean, Arizona or San Diego State lost 21-0. They didn't score a point last week against Oregon State. I would like to see Cal dominate the defense, run the ball, and get the win here. But yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think they do have a lot to work on, and that Auburn team might just be like one of the worst teams. They might be worse than like Vanderbilt this year. So we'll have to see on
Mm-hmm.
that. What do you think on that, Ben? You think Cal wins big?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm hoping my boy Jack Andrews gets a touchdown. Wanted to steal um wish our guy Richino is out there. Or is he supposed to come back? G? Sorry, I didn't hear what you were
He's not
saying.
100%. It's going to be a game time decision. So we'll see. Rachina plays tight end as well from our high school.
So
Go Mustang.
would he be both sides of the ball, or would he
No,
be
or he does special teams, so he'll be all core for special teams when he's fully healthy, and then he's trying to get those reps at tight end and learn tight end and stuff, and he's got another year of eligibility after this as well, so he's on into development mode right now.
sir?
But yeah, go Bears! I think the Bears are going to pull this one off, but like you said, it's going to be tough when they get to ACC play.
Yeah, it's gonna be super tough. I mean, like this would be a huge win for them because they literally like I mean, a win against the SEC opponent is huge no matter what, but their start of their SEC schedule is pretty daunting. So I think let's move into kind of who we think will be added to this 16 Pac-12. Obviously, we got Washington State, San Diego State, Oregon State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Boise State. Every team is a state school. Uh, we'll start with G. Who do you think is going to be added to this?
I mean, who do I think or who do I want to are two different things. But I think that I think we're gonna see UNLV just with the stadium they play in, and I know the Pac-12 has a good relationship with just the city of Las Vegas. They hold their conference things there, and a lot of Pac-12 things are there in general. So I see UNLV joining, and then I also want Nevada, Reno, and yeah, all the like I said earlier, all the ones that represent a whole state or a big city, I think that they deserve the recognition to go in the Pac-12, and that would be a great way to rebuild it, especially with a team like UNLV playing in the Raiders Stadium. And but I do think of schools like Colorado State and how they have their rival Wyoming. I think it hurts to not have rivals in the same conference. So I want all of them to join the Pac-12, but I don't
Yeah.
think that's how it's going to end up.
Yeah, before you go, Benjo, I think that, the only problem with kind of how the Pac-12 is trying to revive themselves is what's going to happen in the Mountain West, like do they become a conference that needs to turn into the Pac-12 and start adding like that's where you kind of lose a little bit of, I know now college football is a complete business. It's all about money. It's all about NIL. It's all about, who can have the most money. But in terms of the Mountain West becoming obsolete, that would be a bummer as well. Obviously, I would trade the Pac-12 for the Mountain West any day, but you start getting to the point where the Mountain West turns into nothing. So I guess that might be the price you have to pay.
Yeah, I
You're right.
mean that's what I think about when I'm doing this. Like I'm looking at it right now from like from the video game perspective, so I can visualize it. One of the teams that really sticks out to me as being like an outlier in their own conference is BYU. It's kind of weird that they're in the Big 12. It doesn't really seem like a team that fits. And I think that they should make the move to the Pac 12 because they're a big brand. and it's a Utah school, which is in the West Coast, and it'd be nice to bring that back. I think that San Jose State would also be a great addition, like you said, with rivalries with for Fresno State. But like you guys have said, that's the big problem with the Mountain West is like a lot of those teams should be in the Pac-12 now, and then do you kill one for the other, or what's the deal? I mean, personally, I think Cal and Stanford should have never left the Pac-12. They just are such a Pac-12 team; it just throws it all off with them being in the ACC. So I think that there should probably be some like the worst teams in the West in their like the big major conferences like the Big 12, Big
Yeah.
10, and
Well,
stuff be reverted
if
back.
you look at it as of now, 2026 is when these teams would join. All four of them are Mountain West teams, and the only teams that we can name that could be added are Mountain West teams as well. So you kind of put yourself in a position where, like, yeah, let's just take the next 8 good teams from the Mountain West, put them in the Pac-12, and kind of do like a Big West conference. Like, just have like UC, like, just have like a bunch of teams that are like bottom feeders, like a Utah State and maybe like a San Jose State. I don't know if San Jose State's a big enough name to join a Pac-12. I think that they fall into the category of dropping to like a Big West type of conference. But yeah, I mean, there's not really any other teams they can pluck besides Mountain West teams. So I think your take on BYU is never going to happen. BYU is just too big to join a conference with these guys. BYU, there's so many donors, such a big name, Mormons everywhere. So it'll be a little tough to try to get them to join the Pac-12. But I like that there's a campaign to get the Pac-12 revitalized. I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope that by 2026 we can actually get 12 teams. That'd be great to have back in the 12, or at least 12. Maybe more than 12, but I would at least like 12.
Yeah, no doubt. It'd be sweet to have that big of a conference. I mean, I think that it all happened so fast, so they couldn't really game plan on how this would all turn out. But there should have been some sort of course of action to keep the Pac-12 alive without having to have 2 years of this Pac-2. So I kind of wish that they would have figured that out. But yeah, I mean, this is an exciting college football season. It's like the first year where NIL is really playing a huge impact. And it's the first year of conference realignment, first year of the 12-team playoff. So there's a lot to be excited about. In terms of national championship predictions, obviously Texas is a huge one, Georgia's a huge one, Bama's always going to be up there, Ohio State's a huge one. Who are your guys kind of like sleepers to make a run in that 12-team college football playoff? We'll start with you, Ben. Who's your sleeper for the college football playoff?
My sleeper pick, I because I watching that first game day, uh, I think his 12th team or like 10th team Sabins was Utah, and I like what I see from Utah. And they got a real surefire quarterback with Cam Rising. I like him a lot. He's a good quarterback. So, I mean, if I had an obvious pick, I'd say Texas. But my outsider pick, I'm going Utah.
What about you, G? Who's like kind of your sleeper to, you know, at least upset somebody in that first round or like, something like that. Like some team that might get themselves into that next round and be like, whoa, what happened? Where these guys come from?
I don't know if it's really that much of a sleeper, but Ole Miss, that's who comes to mind. Jackson Dart, he's going into his senior year, third year with Lane Kiffin, and Lane Kiffin, like I just said, he's I think he's well deserving even of a national championship. I think they're going to make it pretty far, and I don't think a lot of people are really expecting a team in such a hard conference to really make it, but I think they have the ability to win the conference.
No doubt. I like those two picks. Utah and Ole Miss. Ole Miss is fifth in the country right now. Utah's 12th in the country right now. Uh, the top four, if we're going old rankings, is Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Bama. That's a strong top four. So I like to see that. Tennessee. Tennessee is really good this year. The SEC is strong as always, especially after adding Texas and Oklahoma. My sleeper might be, I mean, I think rather than a sleeper, I'd rather kind of like pick a team to keep an eye on, and that's going to be the Oregon Ducks. I know we talked about them a little bit, but they, I feel like Dan Lanning's not on the hot seat, but their program is on the hot seat in terms of they're on the fraud watch for sure. So, what do you guys think about Oregon? You think Oregon turns it around and finishes in the top 4, top 5, 10 the year, or do you think once they hit Big Ten play, these early struggles are going to really pay dividends?
I think that Oregon, I think they'll eventually, I think they're warming up. I think that this boys game was really a big test, and winning by 3, I think they have a really disgusting taste in their mouth right now. That was a win, but they really probably, I hope they treated it like a loss, and they hope they had a tough practices this week. And so, yeah, I think that Oregon's going to find themselves in the high rankings at the end of the season, but I think that these beginning games are really a test, and especially when they get to conference play. So we'll see. I think that Oregon's gonna Dylan Gabriel. We've seen him do it at Oklahoma. I think that he'll get his rhythm and he'll bring this team. They have a lot of pieces. So
Yeah, for sure. I don't think any of the blame should go on Gabriel. He's been playing great all year. It hasn't really been his fault. In terms of what you said about them should be taken as a loss. This is almost one of those games where you come out of it like, whoa, we won that. Like, it's one of those games like where you shouldn't have won, but that schedule or that record still says 2-0. So you're just like, hell yeah. But obviously, Boise State, they might turn out to be a college football playoff team. Ben, what do you think about Oregon? What are your thoughts on Oregon?
I just I agree with you. I mean, I think Boise State is a good team. I think that's no getting around that. And they're a team that doesn't give up. We saw that with this last game where they almost beat Oregon, and they came back against Nevada. So, I mean, you can just tell that they like almost like Dan Campbell are here to bite people's kneecaps off. So I think they're obviously a gritty team. Uh, I think Oregon still well coached, still like when you have all these guys, especially a quarterback that you're bringing in, even like if it's rookie in the NFL or recruit or transfer, those first couple games are a little shaky. You got to get a feel for the system, how it plays in game, and I think that they'll get their footing. I think these next 3 games will be huge wins if they can do it because I see that they got Ohio State coming up after that, and then they'll have some harder opponents. So I think if they could win these next 3, they'll be back on track, and I think they will win these next 3 against UCLA, Oregon State, and Michigan State. I think they'll sweep that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big week. Week 3 is a big week. It's week 4 for some teams that played week 0. Uh, in terms of G's pick, I like that Ole Miss team a lot. Dart has so much, experience under his belt. Lane Kiffin, part of that Saban tree. It's hard not to root for Kiffin. Kiffin's awesome. They have their first SEC matchup this week. They're playing Wake Forest. I could see them blowing them out. Uh, but it seems like at the end of the day, the 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 cream always rises to the top, and the cream being Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State. Those 3 teams this year will probably be if I had to wager on it, I would say Georgia, Texas, or Ohio State is going to be raising the trophy this year. Would you guys agree with that?
100%. I think Texas. That's my prediction of who's going to win it. I think Texas can take it. I think that Quinn Ewers is really trying to prove his name. I think that he kind of gets overlooked sometimes. I know it's hard to believe he's Texas quarterback with all that, but I think he's a lot better than Shadur. I think he's better than Dylan Gabriel. I think he should be the top quarterback pick, not the top pick, but the first quarterback off the board.
yeah, I do think that Texas really they've been itching for years to get to that national championship, and Ewers is really their guy that they've found, first one in a long time. So I'm gonna go with Texas as well. I think that Texas could pull it off. They have a good defense, a great offense, and a lot of weapons. So yeah, I definitely see Quinn Ewers
Yeah.
and Isaiah Bond keep bonding for the rest of the season.
Bond is he's a Bama transfer, right?
That's right.
And Sark is Texas's coach. He's
Another Bama or another Saban coaching tree.
exactly another Saban coaching tree. So I mean, I'd have to think Saban's probably in those guys' ears giving them some advice. But yeah, speaking of Bama, they got a big game this week. They're favored by 17. They're going into Wisconsin. I know that, this should be an easy win for Bama, but it's a road test against a really solid environment. Wisconsin's not that good this year, but the environment is going to be tough on a road test. So I love seeing the SEC Big Ten matchups. That's another one to highlight. That's going to be when you guys are waking up tomorrow, 9 a.m. your guys' time on Fox. So that will be a good one. Not much else that I had to talk about. Uh, in terms of just like how you guys feel about the 12-team playoff, we'll start with UG. Are you a fan of this new 12-team playoff, or would you like it to be still for like how it used to be?
No, I'm definitely a fan. I want to see how it goes. I'm not 100% on board, but I'm definitely a fan to just, they're trying something new, giving more teams an opportunity to win it out. So I'm excited and I'm for it. And I think that this year is really gonna show a lot of teams. And I think it gives a lot of teams a lot more momentum as well.
I
Yeah,
think
go
I
for it.
think the best part about it is the one things with college football that I always found very annoying, like even dating back to like before the 14 playoffs, was it was never really like really decided who the national champion was, because you'd have always that fifth or sixth team who's undefeated, who doesn't get to say in who in the playoffs, or like back in the day it was like voted upon who's the best team. So this finally ends all those arguments. If you're not in the top 12, then you obviously should be there. So I think these top 12 teams, and with these big conferences we see with USC, Oregon, Washington leaving the Pac-12 and joining the Big Ten, there's obviously going to be like the top teams with some losses. So we're going to see a lot of big plays and a lot of like we'll see the best of the best. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, no doubt. I think my biggest thing here with this 12-team playoff is you see for instance the SEC, Georgia within the last 5 years has really came on as the team that can finally dethrone Bama as the SEC Kings. Georgia has pretty much taken that spot. Uh and it makes it just a lot more fun with these conference championship weekends, because you'd see these conference championship weekends and then Georgia would play Bama in the SEC championship, and then one of those teams gets left out. Now that's not the case. Now they can play each other in the SEC championship and both go through. Uh, I think just the weight that a loss used to carry is a lot less now. Like it's not like, oh, we lost it. Like even Michigan losing at home to Texas. Like if Michigan wins the rest of their games this year and beats Ohio State, Michigan's going to be top 10 in the country, no doubt. So like I just think
Maybe even
these
higher.
yeah, I think these early losses, it's so nice that they're not like a problem anymore. So I'm with you guys. I'm a fan. In terms of the top five Heisman watch, as of now, it is Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Genty, the running back from Oregon or from Boise State, Miller Moss, and Carson Beck. Out of those five, do you think one of those five is going to win it? It's four quarterbacks and the running back from Boise State. I'll say it again: Ewers, Ward, Miller Moss, Beck. How do you guys feel about that? We'll start with you, Ben. What do you think about those five? And if you had to put money on it today, is one of those five going to win it?
I would. I don't have that much money, but I would put all the money I own that Carson Beck becomes a flop in the NFL. I don't think he's going to do. He's
That
not
was
going
that
to
was
get.
not the question.
Yeah. So, well, I'm going through the list. No way he's winning it. I don't think like
Okay.
he's going to be a reason that they would be successful. Yours, if he keeps on having big games, big chance he wins it. I've watched both of Miller Moss's games now, and that team's very talented, and the offense is very talented, but he sticks out as the weakness. So I don't think that he's going to win it. I think it's probably going to be yours, or I really like that Ward. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, G, what are your thoughts on those 4 quarterbacks, 1 running back, the Boise guys in there because he has 9 touchdowns through 2 games. I mean, they have to put him in there. This is week 3. They've played
It's
two
gonna slow
games, so
down.
it's real early. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Heisman so far?
Yeah, well, 2 of those guys were on my top 5 list that I made. Cam Ward is the one I choose. I think that we haven't talked about Miami enough. I think that they're going to win the ACC. I think that Mario Cristobal is a great coach, and he's finally gotten another good quarterback, just like Justin Herbert, an elite quarterback to in their offensive line. They played extremely well versus Florida. I think that Miami is another sleeper team. If I didn't say Ole Miss, I would have probably said Miami. So, um, yeah, I'm going to go with Cam Ward. I think that, he's finally on a team that he can really show his whole ability. And if not that, I'm going to go with Quinn Ewers. Just like we said, agree with you guys. He's kind of the chosen one for this. We've been waiting for him to win a Heisman, but my dark horse is Cam Ward.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I like what you said about Miami. I think Miami's super slept on. They're a great team. They're like, I mean, Cristobal coming from Oregon. I don't even think he got fired. I think that Miami job came open and
Hmm.
he wanted to go home. He's from that area or he went to school there or something. I know there's some
Yeah,
connection there.
that's his alma mater.
Yeah.
So, I think that he's another Saban coaching tree coach. And I think that, he wanted to go home. And I think last year, it's hard to go in your first year. And I think last year he spent a lot of time rebuilding, getting this offensive line ready. And now he's got his quarterback. And I think that they're going to make it farther than people think they are for sure.
Yeah, that week 1 dog walking of Florida at the Swamp, I
Hmm.
believe it was huge. I also like what you said about Ewers, man. Ewers, it's cool to see him live up to the expectations, man. He went to Ohio State, didn't play a down there, got paid $1 million in NIL. Everyone was like, what's up with this kid? What's up with this kid? But he's finally living up to the expectations, and he did last year too. He's a Sunday guy. Ewers is a Sunday
Hmm.
guy in my mind. He's a really good quarterback. That Texas team. I mean, once you opened NIL, you knew that Texas team was going to be good. They got so much money to pay people. So, uh, I honestly think like it's only week 3, but that top 5 is going to look way different. I think in the next 5 weeks, like 5 weeks from now, end of October, I think that top 5 is going to look a lot different. I think Miller Moss is going to drop out of there. I think SC struggles in the Big Ten. Beck, I'm not a Beck guy. I'm with Ben. I think Beck's just I'm not a fan of him, but I would love to see Miami go like 11-1, win the ACC, and I'd love to see Ward win the Heisman. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, so we're all for Ward. It was cool to see him, come from the FCS level as well, not even before he was even at Washington State. And just, so that's another thing. I think the Heisman kind of goes with that, fighting your way to the top, kind of like a Joe Burrow but I do think, like you said, the list is going to be a lot different. And I think a guy that is going to pop up on that list is Dylan Gabriel. I think that, he did last year. He might not have been there at the ceremony, but he was for sure in the conversation last year. And I think he'll be back in it again by that time.
Yeah, that Oregon team, big test for them this week, man. If they can go into Corvallis, win the Civil War by, 24 points and kind of just shut down their offense. I think that's the biggest question with this Oregon team is how good their defense is. Like they just give up so many, like 34 points to that Boise team's a lot of points. I don't care how good Ginty is or whatever his name is. Like that's a lot of points to give up to a Boise State team at Autzen. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I'd like to see, a Pac-12. I didn't even realize that he came kind of from like FCS too. So it's good to see Ward make his way up there. The U is a huge brand. It's good to see them be good too. We've been at it for a little while here. You guys got anything else that's came to mind on this college football slate? Maybe you want to talk a little recap of the Thursday night football games Thursday night football game last night. Anything on your guys' mind?
I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the Heisman and just about how every year, we the last wide receiver we had was Devontae Smith, and boy, that was an exciting year to see another position win. But we also haven't seen a running back win it in a while. I can't remember the exact year that it's been since we've seen a Heisman that was a running back, but Yeah, so I think that would be exciting to have a different position win Heisman, even though we all picked Cam Ward. I think that'd be really exciting to see a wide receiver like Teratoa McMillan. But in the end, it does have a lot to do with wins. So
Yeah.
the Gentry guys and those guys are going to fall out. But I do think they're Heisman worthy, you know. So I think that draft picks and Heisman's should be in different conversations. You know, I still think that Travis Hunter, he might have a horrible season. I still think that he should be a high draft pick. You know, I think a lot of these guys that might not have good seasons in the college football playoff, I think they still are going to be good draft picks and are very valuable and fun to
Yeah.
watch this season.
Derrick Henry, last running back to win the Heisman 2015. Travis Hunter, speaking of Colorado, Ben, I want your opinion on this. Say Boulder loses to Colorado State this week, and then they go into the Big 12 and they end the season similar to last season. Say they go 4-6 or 4-7, and Shador gets drafted, Shiloh's gone. What happens with Dion? Is this Dion's last year at Colorado if his son's getting drafted after this year? What do you think happens to Dion after this year if they have a terrible season again, which it looks like they might?
He will not get fired. I don't think he will. No matter how the season's gone, that guy gets butts and seats and makes a lot of money for the program. So I don't think he'll ever get. I don't think he'll get axed this year. If he has a horrible season next year and the hype's completely dead, he might get axed. But he might know that and know he'd be asked and try to go jump ship or just like be like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm going to be the agent for my son.
I wasn't necessarily thinking he would get axed. That was never something that I was thinking about. I was thinking about just personally him being Deion Sanders. Would he stay there? You know, it's going to be on his accord. He's going to leave. What do you think, G? Do you think he would stay there after his son leaves, and if they were to go 4-6 again?
I think that I'm going to give him one more year. I think that he doesn't want to just quit just yet, but I truly don't see Dion coaching long term. I think he loves coaching his.
Uh-oh.
Cannot remember his name, but there's some other guys, one that plays both sides as well. So I think he loves coaching kids and coaching football. I just can't see him doing it long term due to especially if Shadur goes on and becomes an NFL starter, basically. You know, I don't see the time working out, and with how involved he is in his son's life, I don't see him coaching for very long. So I'm gonna give him one more year.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard to picture him staying at a program like that if they, continue to have bad seasons. I mean, if they go 4-6 2 years in a row with his kid being the quarterback, how are they going to be without his kid being the quarterback? I mean, there's no doubt Shadur's talented. He's an extremely good quarterback. He can hit anybody. He has a cannon for an arm. But if he's gone, like, how are And what if Shadur leaves and Dion stays and they go 8-3 the next year? It's like, oh, how good, I just feel like there's a lot of question marks around kind of Dion, but I think Colorado will be forever grateful no matter what because of the spotlight that he's been able to bring on that program.
Definitely, and they'll have guys. You know, obviously we have Nate Lamon, another Monta Vista alum. They have those guys that are in the NFL, but they'll finally have those stars that they can represent Colorado Boulder. And like I said, I'm really excited. People talk about Shadur, but I'm excited for Travis Hunter. I really am.
The one thing I will say to the Colorado talk is they do have a pretty good scapegoat this year with the lines. I mean, it's very obvious that's the big flaw. So if Dion pulls together a great O line class next year and they do go 8-3, they can just say, "Oh, it was because they have an O line." Imagine if Shadir had this O line, he would have won a national championship. So it's like a double edged sword. I feel like he could easily use that as an excuse.
No doubt. No doubt.
I'm just
Well,
not sure if Dion is going to be able to bring in the coaching to get to those high levels with the offensive line. You know, I think his coaching at the DB position, even on offense as well, is all going to be elite. But the trenches, like we talked about earlier, is extremely important. And yeah, we'll see. I still also think it's early in the season. I think we should give Colorado a chance. We don't know everything. You know, maybe they are missing some guys. So I think we should also give it some time. But like I said, I don't see Dion even coaching after Shedeur possibly. I think he can leave coaching. I don't. We all know we don't think he's going to be a coach in the NFL, especially not a head coach. So yeah, I don't even see him coaching uh,
Yeah,
at that point.
I like that take, man. I think he just wanted to make sure that his son had the right coach to get him ready for the NFL, and he
Hmm.
felt like he was the right guy to get him ready for the NFL. So, yeah, it's a good take, man. I think it's very possible that this was Dion's last stop. I think he just wanted to be Shitter's coach. So, uh, yeah, I think Dion could be like an awesome agent if he wanted to. He could be like one of the best agents in the like ever. Like his ability to bring value to anything is huge. So yeah, very
Even if he
very
swallowed his pride a bit, he could even be a good backs coordinator, backs coach, or
yeah, but he doesn't need
defense
to do
coordinator.
that. You know, he's
Yeah.
Deion Sanders. You know, it's not something that he would need to do. So
He loves the spotlight. He's a great commentator. I think it's a spotlight thing. I love Dion. He's one of my favorite players of all time. But I truly don't believe. I think he loves coaching, but I don't think he loves it enough to be a top coach in college. And I know he loves watching his son. You don't really get a lot of time to do that when you are a college coach. So
yeah, I mean, you look at some of the top college coaches right now. You got Dan Lanning, you got Kirby Smart, you got uh Lane Kiffin. You know, those guys started their careers washing balls for Nick Saban. Handing people waters at practice in Alabama. Like you have to really work yourself up the chains. These instant head coach jobs without any, sort of working yourself up the chains, it's very hard to be successful. So we'll kind of see how it all unravels. But just judging by that Nebraska game, either Nebraska is going to have a really good season or Colorado just is not going to be able to do much at all. But I'm excited. I'm really excited to watch him play Colorado State. That game last year was electric. Travis Hunter got absolutely decapitated by that kid on the sideline and missed a few weeks after that. So I mean, there's gonna be some revenge. There's gonna be some hard hits. It's gonna be fun to watch that one for sure.
yeah, and also shout out to Chad Savage. He's the recruiting coordinator, wide receivers coach. They have a phenomenal wide receiver in Horton, number 14. You guys will see him. You saw him last. They're missing their tight end. He's on the Saints now, so they are missing a few pieces. But Colorado State has always brought in those skill players that make you raise an eyebrow.
Quarterback's pretty good too, I think.
He is. He was offered, I think, 600K. He said to go to other schools, and he wanted to commit to the program and stay with Colorado State. And I think their coach, former coach at UNR, I think that he's finally kind of built his program. And they have a $1 million facility. They have a lot of. I think that's another reason why they joined the Pac-12 as well. They have a lot of good facilities. They have everything pointed at them to be a good program. So hopefully, in years coming, they can be a big Pac-12 program.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely think they're probably up there to being favorites to finish at the top of the Mountain West. Obviously, that Boise team, I hope they live up to expectations. That Boise team looks like they could be an absolute problem the way they played Oregon at Autzen. So be exciting to watch the Mountain West this year. Next year will be the last year of the Mountain West if those Pac-12 deals go through. Uh, well, I think that might round up our college football talk for week 3. Uh, Thanks for watching. This was a little choppy. It's first time, doing some college ball talk, so we didn't have like a huge game plan. We kind of freeballed it a little bit, but we will be back at it next week most likely, and hopefully we have a better week. There's not a lot of huge games this week, but yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.
My bad for the technical difficulties too.